All right, joining me now on Newsport is Cook MP Cynthia Lui. Cynthia, nice to see you and welcome to Newsport.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity this morning.
Cheers. Tim, it's busy time, so we'll kick off straight away. Lots of questions to get through today. Let's talk about, first of all, Douglas Shire water security. What have you specifically done to directly assist and advocate for Douglas Shire residents since around December 15th last year in regards to getting better water security into the Shire?
Heaps going on this in this space. I acknowledge that. So what have I done? I've worked closely with the local council to try and get a better understanding for the issue, so that I can better advocate for the issue with my counterparts in Brisbane. Have had many conversations with the Minister for Water, and he's visited the community a couple of times since December last year. And so I think water security, I know I've had many inquiries through the office as well, and my office has been taking or working with those inquiries quite closely, linking them up to relevant people in the ministerial office as well as the department. So there's a lot of conversations happening between my office, the minister's office, and the department. There's also, from what I understand, there's also lots of conversations happening between the state government as well as the federal government.
But are you content though that you've done, from your point of view in your role, you've done everything you possibly can to get us moving forward in the Shire?
I think I've done everything I possibly can, but there's still more to be done. Obviously, I acknowledge that. So what I've done specifically with communities was working with specific inquiries that has been raised through my office. I've had conversations directly with the council, with the former council as well as the now new council. One of my priorities coming on board with the new council now is to make sure that we're working in close partnership to address the water security, and also, and look at longer term options. My advocacy to the state minister is that we work closely with the council to look at longer term options, because we're at a point now where even though council pretty much is fully responsible for water, there is still the longer term options that they will be requiring support from, and the Department of Water has been working closely with the council, and then that's a really positive feedback from the council as well.
All right, so you've mentioned the Water Minister. My next question is, why is the State Labor Government and the Water Minister, in some people's eyes, refusing to release any water licences, even on a temporary basis, to assist Douglas Shire resort and accommodation outlets?
Look, like I said, there's been a lot of specific inquiries from the community, and even though I can't speak for the minister, it is in everyone's best interest that we work closely with the council to, work through all of their priorities and issues for the future. They do have a water security strategy, the council has, and we will be working directly with the council to look at longer term options.
Let's move on to one that is across your office, and that's the tourism exceptional grant applications. There's been a record number of failed applications by Douglas Shire businesses and outlets, and I want to run through these. Cayman Villas, Garrick Horse, Shantara, Martinique on Macrossan, Poor Resort, Freestyle Port Douglas, Lazy Lizard Operators, Sail Away, Akula Sport Fishing, and Cafe Douche. I'm wondering, have you spoken to people like Danny Rodriguez, Bruce Tozer, Lyndon Kenyon, and what have you specifically done to help these failed applications? Because there's a lot of businesses, tourism outlets in Douglas that are on Struggle Street, and they're questioning your action and your advocacy for them, and why their applications have been rejected, and what you're doing to specifically and individually help those applications. Also, separate to that are the BRIT funds. If you could just address those ones then.
Yeah, look, like I said, there's been many inquiries through the office, and I can't think of every single name off the top of my head. And so, I feel for those businesses that didn't get a look in. I really do.
But are you helping them directly though? Specifically, are you helping their individual failed applications?
I'm not too sure if they contacted the office though. That's
okay. Really kindly respect. Some definitely have. But I just wanted to know where you stand on those failed applications, because it costs a lot of money to apply for these grants, and they're getting rejected on basis of being not being closed for enough days or not being the right outlet. So it's very frustrating for those businesses that I mentioned. I just wanted to know what your thoughts were.
Yeah, like I said, I feel for those businesses. When Jasper happened, I was advocating strongly for my communities up there. Tourism is a big industry for me in the Douglas Shire, so hence the reason why I took the front foot with this one. I've had conversations directly with the Premier. I've had conversations directly with the Minister for Tourism. I've had conversations directly with the Minister for Small Business to see how we can better support businesses up there. When the state and federal package was announced, it was because of my advocacy for the region that it was announced. So I acknowledge that there were applications that has come back unsuccessful. We have worked through my office, worked with those people specifically to talk directly to Minister Healy's office so that he was directly aware.
But if I got you in touch with,
situation.
if I got you in touch with people like Danny Rodriguez, who owns Cafe Dolce, would you listen to his case and push his case and kind of just take an interest in his case? Or Bruce Tozer, for example. These are guys who claim that they're at their wits' end. I just would be interested to know if you pick up their case and kind of help them a bit.
Definitely. I'm always having conversations because I want my communities to benefit from whatever packages that was delivered. Okay. And so we know that Jasper had a huge impact on businesses up there. So the last thing I want to see is businesses struggle. All
right. Now, moving along quickly, you touched on Jasper. In a nutshell, what have you done specifically to kind of directly assist Douglas Shire residents since the double disaster on the back of the floods as well? What have you, just in a nutshell, what are some key things that you've done that you can tell Douglas Shire residents you have done and achieved in that time?
Water security. Water security was a big one throughout that time. We've had outages, we've had power outages, we've had what's that word? Is it outage?
Water outages?
Is it water outage or what's that word?
You can say that. Power. I mean, we've definitely had power outages, but no, it's okay. But no, I just trying to get a feel of what you've done during this time.
Yeah, so look, I was in there on the 2nd of January after New Year's Day. Obviously, I couldn't get into those community earlier because there was, the roads were pretty much blocked off, so access was a problem. So there was a lot of advocacy in this space to ensure that we had access back into community. Captain Cook Highway was a big one for me. I've had businesses all the way from Wangeti all the way back to just on the Captain Cook Highway. So you were advocating with TMR and roads at a state level to try and get the Captain Cook back open, for example. Well, as you know, the tourism industry in the Douglas Shire is a big one for me, and so accessibility.
But you were pushing that behind the scenes.
Yeah, I wasn't just sitting back and waiting for things to happen. It had to happen.
It had to happen. Okay, so let's move on to some quick ones. The Mossman Mill, a huge issue. Again, what have you done, just to let the readers know, what have you done specifically to, there's talks that the Labor government have failed the Mossman Mill. Susan Stanton-McDonald came out last week saying that Labor's failed the Mossman Mill in terms of its advocacy and keeping it open and assisting with keeping it open. What can you say on the record that you've done personally to try and fight to keep that mill open?
It goes back to 2018, 2019, when I came into this position, the mill was in the same predicament back then. I've advocated strongly with former Mayor for Douglas Shire, Julia Lui, and there was a state and federal partnership. Federal was a bit slow coming to the party. State was in there with a 25 mil commitment. Federal government came on board with a 20 mil commitment. That was the strong advocacy from my part to get funding and support for the mill and the community. I acknowledge that the mill has a strong history in Mossman community in the Douglas Shire. It supports economic growth, it supports ongoing employment, and then there's the flow-on effect. I acknowledge all of that. Over time, You know, I don't think anyone saw that we would be back in the same situation again. Unfortunately, I was told in December last year that the mill was in trouble. That was when, you know, it was coming into Jasper, it was changing leadership, there was a whole lot of things happening.
But is the mill still on your radar right now? Is the mill?
It definitely is. We
And you're
announced
still
a
talking,
$12 million
yes,
package.
but
to
where's
support.
that 12 million going though? Because there's confusion about directly where that's going to be allocated. But day to day, you're still pushing hard to keep that mill open.
I'm still pushing hard. I was out there recently. I did my mobile office. I had inquiries from the community about where exactly is that $12 million going, because there was still confusion in the community. So I came back to my office, got information, put information out there. I'm not sure if we sent you a media release where people can actually get information to, you know, around the $12 million. So there is a lot of work in this space, and I will continue to work with the mill. I met Carmel from I think she's the Mossman Mill Association. I met her yesterday at the Anzac dawn service, and so we're planning to have a meeting sometime soon. So you know, there's a lot of advocacy in this space, and I will continue to work with everyone across the board.
Some quick ones in your relationship with Douglas Shire Council. How would you describe it over the past 4 years? There's kind of talk that you may have, for lack of a better word, distanced yourself due to some not so close relationships with some higher ups inside council. Is that a fair summation or a fair comment?
I've always worked closely with the council, you know, and if there was any issues, it certainly wasn't from my part.
Okay. This is one that I've asked you 4 years ago, or 3 or 4 years ago. I'll ask you again because it is an election year, and just so you can address this publicly, because the invisible minister tag, it's something that you're familiar with. You'll say that you've got a big electorate, a big shire, and it's hard to be everywhere at once. What are your response to claims when you get tagged the invisible minister? Is it a fair claim to say that you're not seen, heard in the shire, in the electorate? I mean, what's your response to claims that with you being dubbed with that tag consistently?
2nd of January, after New Year's Day, I was in there. I held a town hall meeting after Jasper because the most important thing for me was that my community felt hurt, and that during that devastation of that natural disaster, I wanted them to know that they had someone in there representing their best interest.
But does it bother you? Does it bother you to be tagged the invisible minister? Is it hurtful to you to hear those claims?
No.
Mm-hmm. You're aware. You're obviously very aware.
I've got a large electorate.
Yes.
I've got a large electorate.
But people say that, okay, so do other politicians, but they haven't been tagged that invisible minister. And rightfully or wrongfully, this was plagued you during your time. I'm just trying to assess whether it's unjustified, it's unfair.
I will do the best I can to support my community. Like I said, there will be a whole lot of views and a whole lot of opinions about how I represent my electorate, and everyone is entitled to their own views and opinions.
Okay. Bushy Creek. Bushy Creek, I know it's not in the Douglas Shire, but during early January, Bushy Creek was the only outlet in and out of the Douglas Shire. Just your views on, is this something that's on your radar? I put it to your office a number of times about even though it's not in Douglas Shire, it's still a critical piece of road. And would you in the future consider, improving the approaches either end, raising that little, for lack of a better word, bridge, whatever, crossing? Is that something that you will do? So can you say on the record that that's something that you will do for the residents, not just in the Douglas Shire, but the far north?
Definitely, Michael.
When?
Everything happens within process, and so I will continue to advocate strongly for.
How deeply is this project on your radar? How deeply is that on your radar?
I guess say there's Bushy Creek, there's Captain Cook Highway, there's the Rex Range, there's a number of roads in my
But you're pushing this at a state level?
Definitely, I'm pushing as hard as I can for every single project that needs to be looked at in my electorate.
Thank you so much. All right, 2 last ones. Election year, big year for yourself. If, worst case scenario, if you're not re-elected, what do you think your legacy will have been and will be during the course of your terms and the way that you represented the Shire?
I think my legacy will be someone who was out there fighting hard for her community. I've never once you know, I've always given it 101% or even more. I've always gone into bat for every single issue in my electorate, and I've always come out with an outcome. And if not, I will always go back to my community. I try not to, give false expectations, because I don't believe in working with communities around false expectations. It's only what I can deliver. And so I think my legacy would be someone who was maintain connectedness, maintain communication, maintain relationship, and I think that's what my community deserves.
Lastly, last question, and I'll hit the floor's yours. Election year, October this year, why should the people of the Douglas Shire re-elect you later this year?
Why should the people...
In a nutshell.
In
why?
a nutshell?
Why?
For me, into the future, it's about building resilient communities. We've seen with Jasper how severely impacted our communities was. It also shows us how complex the Cook electorate is. So while in Cairns we've had a number of suburbs that was locked in, I had a number of communities that was locked in. I had Mossman, Port Douglas, Cape Tribulation, the Daintree, all locked into little pockets. And then on the other side, I had Dagara and Woodgill. So it's very complex. And I think with the understanding that I have for my community and fighting for what my communities deserve into the future, it is about protecting industry. It is about protecting economic growth, and at the end of the day, it is about protecting social outcomes.
But very honestly, are you still the best person to lead the Cook Shire come October this year?
I will never stop fighting for my communities.
Cynthia, thank you for your time and for your openness in the interview. Thank you.
Thank you.